So far in this unit, we've looked at circuit design and electrical properties and how to calculate them, but we haven't really looked at them together. In this video, we're going to look at circuit analysis, basically calculating all the different properties for the different components within a circuit. To start us off, let's just review one type of circuit that we talked about in a previous video, and that was parallel circuits. One of the models that we used to look at this was this one here. Another one that we used was this animation here. And notice in each of these, one common thing that's happening is that the current of these electrons is branching. It's branching off into these two different pathways in this particular one. It could be more than two, but in this visualization, there's two different paths. Now, each of these have separate branches, and the current is splitting up between these different pathways. And they each have these moments here that the current splits. So here the current splits into this 30 ohm and this 10 ohm. Here the current splits into R1 and to R2. And then here is where the currents come back together. They reconvene to then make their way to the battery. We call these junctions. These are just points where the current has the opportunity to split off into more than one pathway. Now, there are a couple laws with electricity named after this guy here. His name is Kirchhoff. Kirchhoff's first law is talking about these junctions. It basically says that the current coming into a junction must equal the total current leaving that same junction. Now, this law is a pretty common sense sort of thing. If I've got 5 amps of current coming in, and we know that there's 3 amps of current leaving, well, the total current coming in has to equal the total current coming out. Otherwise, somehow it's stuck in that junction. So 5 amps coming in, 3 amps coming out. We know that there should be another 2 amps, just naturally has to be leaving there. We could also predict the other direction as well. If we said that there's 5 amps going in and here 9 amps going out, this 9 amps is bigger than what we had coming in, so we know that there needs to be more current flowing into the junction, exactly 4 amps here. So basically just saying the current in is equal to the current out. Mathematically, the way that this is described is like this. This symbol here is the capital sigma. It is used for summation in mathematical terms. So this says that the sum of all the currents at the junction has to equal 0. Now, the sum of all the currents equaling 0 means that sign, positive or negative, has to be a factor here. So our convention that we're going to use is we're going to say that if a current is entering a junction, we're going to call that a positive current, and if it's exiting a junction, we'll call that negative. So stuff that's adding to it and stuff that's leaving it and subtracting. So in that frame of mind, if we take 5 amps of current coming in, we would call that a positive 5. 3 amps leaving would be a negative 3, which means that for this plus 5 and minus 3 to add up to 0, we need another minus 2. That's how we know that this is 2 amps. So that's mathematically showing what you could probably do in your head, just theorizing and kind of visualizing what's going on. Same thing here. If we have 5 amps coming in, that's a plus 5. 9 amps leaving, that's a minus 9. That needs to sum to 0, so we need a plus 4, which is 4 amps flowing into the junction. So Kirchhoff's first law, basically just saying that the summation of the current has to equal 0 within that junction. This is given to you in the IB Physics data booklet, written out in that format. Basically just saying the sum of the currents at a junction equals 0. Now, this can look a little bit more complicated as well, and it kind of works out like a puzzle in some ways. So you're given some information, you have to kind of figure out what you don't know and figure out how you can find that. So, for example, here, I can see that there's 3 amps of current flowing in here, hits this junction and splits. 0.2 amps flow down in this bottom branch, which means the other has to be 0.1 amps, so that 0.3 splits into 0.2 and 0.1. Looks at I2 here can be found if we know that 2.0 amps of current flowing into this junction splits off into 0.3 and 0.6, and what's left over is 1.1. So again, you can just figure out what's missing from that junction adding up to 0. And then finally I3, if we're going to try to trace a current here on this part of the wire, it doesn't have any junction between there and this bottom 2.0. So we can just say that that's 2.0. That has to be the same because there is no opportunity for the current to split between those 2 points. You can also look at something like this where you can really trace your way all the way through. So go ahead and pause. I would like you to figure out what is the current down here at the bottom. So flowing out at the very end, what is the current that you can expect? A hint for this is solve each of these three first, and then you should be able to figure out what this last one would be. So looking here, 2 amps flowing in, 1 amp flowing out. This has to be 1 amp flowing out as well. So 1 plus 1 is 2. I got 1 amp and 6 amps flowing in. That means I need to have 7 amps flowing out. 7 amps flowing and then loses 3. That this has to be 4. So 4 plus 3 equals 7. And then 4 amps and 5 amps converge to give you 9 amps of current flowing all the way out. So follow the current. Each junction must add up to 0. All right. Before we get to Kirchhoff's second law, let's review this water flow model again. This is the one representing a series circuit, so showing more than one resistor connected one after another. Now, there are a couple of features of this model that are useful to know. This here pushing up the ramp, we would consider that our battery. That's what's giving these electrons some excess energy to spend throughout the circuit. Now, one way that we can describe the voltage provided by the battery is we call it a potential difference. Here, kind of our landing zone here at the very bottom is where we're going to measure from on the potential difference as this battery provides. And we can see it in this model. The potential difference is essentially how much height is given. Well, that goes the other way as well. If I wanted to figure out the potential difference on this last resistor here, this 10 ohm, I can just look at the height that it loses in that final drop off. That's the potential difference there. If I want to look at how much potential difference is lost in this 30 ohm, I can just trace out a little height there. So this 30 ohm is losing that much potential difference. Now, each of these can be measured like we did in this FET simulation by just taking a voltmeter and putting the leads on either side of the resistor. That's telling you the potential difference across that resistor, and if I do both, shows me the difference across both resistors. Now, both resistors, in this case, equals the battery. Same thing here, the amount that it gained to go all the way up is equal to the amount that it lost to go down both of these ramps from the very top to the very bottom. So we say, in this case, that each resistor has this voltage drop, and we can describe that the voltage used by the resistors has to equal overall the voltage that was supplied by that battery if we're going to say a simple circuit with a single battery. So the battery gives it some energy, and then each resistor uses part of that energy until it's essentially gone, so that the battery can then return that energy so it can go back around. So this gets us into Kirchhoff's second law. Kirchhoff's second law is known as the loop law or the voltage law. It says that the sum of the voltages or potential differences provided must equal the voltages dissipated across components. This is what we just looked at there, just a fancier way of saying it. So for example, if I drew a loop around this circuit here, I don't necessarily need to know which direction it goes. As long as I'm consistent, I'll draw it, give it a direction, and then work with that direction that I've guessed. There are some conventions here to make this work out. Basically says that across this loop, if I sum all the voltages, I should get 0. So here are the 3 components, my battery and 2 resistors. That has to equal 0. Now, again, to do that, we need to have some that are positive, some that are negative. Otherwise, nothing will ever equal 0. So our convention here is that across batteries, if we're flowing from negative to positive, we'll call that a positive voltage that was supplied. And positive to negative basically means we're flowing backwards through the battery, and it's going to remove that amount. It's be a negative. Resistors, however, are always negative. They can only dissipate. They can never add voltage to the system. So in this case, going across the battery, going from left to right here, that's a negative to a positive. So a short end to a long end. So we call that a positive 12. Then we flow across this resistor. We don't know how much voltage that resistor uses just yet, so we're just going to say resistor. And then across this resistor here, we measured that was an 8 volt dissipation, so we say minus 8. So this resistor then has to be whatever equals, or whatever it needs to be to equal 0 in the end, and of course that's a negative 4. So there is a potential difference of 4 volts across that resistor. Again, the 12 volts provided has to equal 12 volts dissipated, 8 and 4. That's probably easier to think through at this stage than try to do it with this equation, but later on when it gets more complicated, an equation can be more useful in a Kirchhoff second law calculation. Here's an example with more than one battery, and notice that these batteries are actually counteracting each other. So I'm going to draw in a loop like I did before, again just picking a direction, and there are now 4 components that need to add up to 0. I'm going from negative to positive in this first battery, so that's going to be a positive 12. I'm going to have some resistor here, and then now I'm flowing from positive to negative. So this battery here, I'm going to treat as a negative in Kirchhoff's second law, so that's a negative 9, and then a negative 1 for this resistor, which means I've got 12 minus 10. This resistor must be 2 to give me that final of 0. Kirchhoff's second law is also in your IB Physics data booklet. It just says summation of voltage is equal to 0 around a loop. So these are now tools of your toolbox. You should know Ohm's law, how to find resistor or resistance, voltage, and current if you know 2 of the other 3. Kirchhoff's voltage and Kirchhoff's current law for a loop and a junction respectively. And then the series and parallel combinations of resistors to find equivalent resistance. We're going to use all of these now to analyze a circuit numerically. And let's start with a very simple circuit, one that is connected in series here. So looking at this circuit, I see that there's 1, 2, 3 resistors connected in series one after another. I've just plotted it out here. We are going to ultimately calculate voltage, current, and resistance for all 3 of those resistors, and also the total coming out of the battery. So all of these resistors give us a total equivalent resistance that I can find. I just have to add them together. 1 plus 3 plus 2 is 6 ohms. So the total resistance is going to be 6 ohms. That means that if the total voltage is 12 and the total resistance is 6, I can use Ohm's law to figure out what the total current has to be. Ohm's law rearranged to solve for current is just voltage divided by resistance, or 12 divided by 6. That's 2 amps of current. And that current is coming out of the battery here. So 2 amps of current flowing out of the battery because the voltage total is 12, the total resistance is 6. Now, all of those resistors are in the same line. So since there's no junction, the current has to be the same throughout. There was no junction for the current to split. So this 2 amps is the same through R1, R2, and R3, or 2 amps all the way down. Now I know the current and the resistance for each of these resistors. Ohm's law tells me if I know 2 of the 3, I can always solve for the third. Ohm's law solved for voltage would just be I times R. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. These are the respective voltage drops across each of these resistors. That's how much voltage is dissipated across each of those. And the loop rule says that if you draw a loop around here, the voltage supplied has to equal the voltage dissipated. Sure enough, our 12 volts gets used up. 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 4 is 12. So all of these resistors use 12 volts total. The loop rule holds true. If I want to solve instead for a parallel circuit, here's one with a 6 ohm and a 3 ohm resistor connected in parallel with a 12 volt battery. If I want to figure out the current coming out of this 12 volt battery, first I need to figure out what is the equivalent resistance that it's experiencing. Here it looks kind of funny, but these two are in parallel. This is the junction point here. So in parallel, if I were to combine these, I need to use that inverse addition, or the adding the reciprocals. So the total resistance is 6 to the minus 1 plus 3 to the minus 1. All that to the minus 1 gives me 2 ohms. That's my resistance for this particular set of resistors. Now to find the current coming out of the battery, I've got 12 volts divided by 2 ohms, that's 6 amps. So solving that using Ohm's law to help me find that 6 amps of current. Now it's not as easy to say that as the last one where I said that current was the same for all the resistors. In this case it isn't, because this current hits this junction and it splits. So it's not the same, and since these are different resistances, it doesn't perfectly split either. More current is going to flow through the smaller resistance because the electrons are going to choose more the path of less resistance. It won't be all that way, but it won't be perfectly split either. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the voltage loop rule, basically saying that in this loop here, the voltage provided is equal to the voltage dissipated. Notice how we're bypassing R2. I've drawn a loop that does not include R2. So that means that the only resistor that's in that loop is R1. The only battery was this 12 volt battery. So all of that voltage must be dissipated by R1. So we say that R1 has a voltage of 12 volts. I can do that as well with another loop, this one here that goes through R2. There's only one resistor and one voltage battery here. 12 volts has to be entirely used by that resistor. Notice that that's also 12 volts. In a parallel circuit, each of these is going to receive that full 12 volts of voltage. Now all that's left to do is to calculate for the current. Current is just V divided by R. So I can solve 12 divided by 6 is 2. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now to check to see if I did that correctly, I can look at the junction rule. I know that there's 6 amps of current coming out of the battery. That's what I calculated to begin with. And this splits then into a current of 2 amps flowing through this top branch through R1 and 4 amps flowing through this bottom branch, R2. 2 plus 4 adds up to 6. So with all of that in mind, let's look at some of the main patterns here. In this series sort of circuit, we notice that the voltage is divided between components. So the total voltage provided equals the total dissipated, but each one of these dissipates some portion of that. It didn't go all the way down. They add up to that total. And we also notice that the current is the same for all components because it never splits. If we look at a parallel circuit instead, we notice that the voltage is the same for each branch. Both of these branches drop the full amount that the battery provided. So if this is a purely parallel circuit, each branch receives the entire voltage that the battery provided. And the current splits at each junction. So here at this junction, when it has 2 pathways, some of the current goes down to 30 ohm and the rest goes in the 10 ohm because the current split. The takeaways from this video is you should be able to use Kirchhoff's first law to determine an unknown current at a junction because the current splits and adds up overall to 0. The current Kirchhoff's second law to determine not an unknown current, but instead an unknown voltage drop. See how I did that? I edited it quick. And then you should be able to calculate voltage, current, and resistance for every component in a series or parallel. And then notice the patterns and the properties for a simple series and a simple parallel like we looked at in the last slide.